Let's pause for a minute to talk about Anchor by Spotify. Anchor is an easy to use, one stop shop to create and host your podcast. When we started making Sleeping with the Numbers, we used other hosts first that forced us to manually upload to Apple Music, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. But with Anchor, you simply upload to a single spot and it distributes it automatically to all of these locations. But that isn't all. With Anchor, you can easily record, edit, and even add music directly from Spotify to your podcast to make it sound even better. So if you've been waiting around to create a podcast, wait no longer, because Anchor by Spotify makes it extremely easy to do. Anchor is completely free and can be used by downloading the mobile app on iOS or Android, or even right from their website, anchor.fm. Make an account today and get podcasting.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
Hey everyone, welcome back for another Sleeping with the Numbers podcast. We're going to be going through the model episodes, our bets, models bets, and talk about a little bit of news here in the league. Good, bad, mostly bad. It's mostly bad. But to kick it off, question of the day, Odell Beckham Jr., we talked about him last week. Not very happy with the Cleveland Browns. Daddy had to get involved and put up a poorly made video. It was funny to watch, but poorly made. And so they're like, yep, he won't be with the team rest of the season, but we're not going to release him because, Pat, you and I talked about it. He was too expensive to release at his current contract price. So they made a deal, basically cut in half what they were going to owe him, meaning when he hit the waivers, whoever picked him up off of waivers was going to owe $7.5 million, which again was going to be half. And I looked into it to see who could really afford him, and I tweeted it out, but to just kind of rehash who those teams were that could have taken him off waivers. The teams that could afford him: New Orleans, Jacksonville, Philadelphia, Denver, Carolina, Seattle, Chargers, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Washington, Cleveland, that of course they can't take him back, Cincinnati, Houston, and Tennessee. And then kind of from there, we're like, okay, who would actually want him? Saints have already made offers for him. And then, Pat, you brought up New England because that's exactly what they do. Last week, when I did post that, the favorite was the Las Vegas Raiders. And I just completely disagreed with that. They were the favorite at plus 200. And I understand why people would think that, because obviously they just lost Henry Ruggs. They need a wide receiver. I didn't say the Las Vegas could afford him. So obviously they could not claim him off waivers, which meant New Orleans was going to, in my mind, be the favorite. So I made a couple bets here. So I bet New Orleans at plus 300 to be his next team. I also bet New England at plus 450 to be his next team. So as of today, he did clear waivers. The teams he's in talk with, Kansas City, Green Bay, New Orleans, and then the Packers. Obviously, that's not the only teams that could negotiate with him, but where do you think he ends up, Pat?
I think of the list that you just gave me, I think New Orleans makes the most sense in terms of a team that we can't name any of their wide receivers. Yeah. So Odell Beckham would be a great fit in terms of what is a wide receiver who plays for the Saints, not named Michael Thomas. Outside of that, Kansas City probably needs him the most because their offense sucks. But I don't know if that's going to make a difference with him being on the team, because they also have, and to me, not that Josh Gordon and Odell Beckham are the same player, but I want to add another over 30 wide receiver who probably isn't ready to join the team yet, because Josh Gordon obviously was suspended, but Odell Beckham, he played in a different system. So I don't see him joining the Chiefs as a fully beneficial move at this point in time. So that leaves the Packers, which I don't know why they would take him, because is he really going to start over Devontae Adams or Allen Lazard? Probably not at this point in time. So that does leave the Raiders, and I don't want it to be the Raiders, but I think that the Raiders are dumb enough to do it. I think if I'm betting, I'm going to pick the Raiders, but you mentioned the Titans earlier, and I think if I'm the Titans, I'm really looking at this because you have A.J. Brown, who's been off and on injury, and Julio Jones is always hurt. They need offensive firepower. I think he would make the most sense to go to New Orleans or Tennessee, but it's probably going to be the Raiders.
Yeah, I guess we'll see what happens. He seems to want to go to the Packers, which, like you said, why the hell would they ever want him? Not only just because who does he play over? Maybe he ends up as the 2 or 3 on that team, but do they really want more drama on that team? They're already dealing with Aaron Rodgers. It just does not seem like the right move to bring to that team, because everyone knows if Odell's on your team, so is drama. And I just do not think they want that. And I think a way they kind of said that, they did make him an offer. They offered him the veteran minimum salary for someone who has played as long as he has. So let me just take a look real quick at the CBA to see what that actually is. So Odell, who has 7 accrued seasons, the league minimum allowed, which is what Green Bay offered him, is around $1.1 million. And knowing how big-headed Odell is, he's not going to accept that. So I still think my money is probably on, I said New Orleans if he was claimed off waivers. He was not claimed off of waivers. I think everyone knows that 7.5 is way too for him. But there's also talk that good old Bill Belichick is very interested in Odell. And we know that he's just the type of player that they would pick up. So again, I think New Orleans and New England are the teams I'm going to stick with. I would hate to see him as a Kansas City Chief, because I honestly don't think it helps anyone. And I know it's not a fantasy episode, Pat, so maybe we talk about this a little in more depth next time, but fantasy-wise, what team is the best for him?
Oh, geez. I mean, we talked about New Orleans because there's nobody else there to compete with him. I think that has to be it, although it's to be seen what Trevor Siemian and or Taysom Hill do. In terms of potential, it's going to be New England, because although there are wide receivers that he has to compete with, they're not really doing anything. It's Damian Harris. I think if he goes to New England, that gives Mac another target, and he may not have as high of a ceiling in New England, but I think that's where he would get the most opportunity to get points, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. Mac Jones is getting about 33 pass attempts a game. The ball has to go somewhere. They trade away Sony Michel, so that takes away one less target. Like you said, it's been all Damian Harris and to a lesser extent, Ramondre Stevenson, who they're both currently in the concussion protocol. So that leaves Jacoby Myers and then Nelson Aguilar, who they signed pretty quickly in the offseason last year. He hasn't done much. So I think you're right. I think going to the Patriots may be the best spot for him. Helps out a rookie quarterback when they have that veteran presence. And the Patriots are a type of team that can kind of water down some of this drama. They're used to it. They've handled it forever. It's just the type of team they are, and I think that fit makes a lot of sense. And I tried pulling up current odds for this on Bovada, and there currently aren't any. So I'm not exactly sure what that means, but I think we'll know by next week where Odell is going to be. But as far as this week goes, he can't play, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I can tell you what it means. It means we just broke a news story. So look at it on Twitter. We were the first to report it. Odell to the Patriots, calling it now.
We could be announcers. And speaking of announcers, let's talk Monday Night Football a little bit. ESPN is awful. I would much rather mute my TV and then put on like the Steelers radio broadcast from Pittsburgh than listen to them. But they are just absolutely terrible. They're like, oh, maybe they'll go for 2 points here. when it's a tie ball game, and their football knowledge seems to be lacking, and I didn't think it could get any worse than in Jason Witten, but it has. When you have 3 talking heads that know nothing, it's much worse.
Does it make you miss John Gruden at all on ESPN? Because I don't know. I mean, we kind of knew him going to the Raiders for a second time was going to be a failure. Now, if he didn't talk about people with rubber lips, then I think he'd still be the coach. But I kind of miss him because he was like the prelude to Tony Romo. Like he was the fun announcer, the one that everyone's like, I'm watching the game because I want to hear what John Gruden's going to say. So rest in peace for him. He's not going to ever be back on television.
Yeah, definitely as he shouldn't. But you bring up Tony Romo. He's the only one I really enjoy listening to. I was so happy when they brought him in for the Super Bowl. His football IQ is off the charts. Maybe he couldn't really get it done physically, but he obviously knows the game and can see things before they happen. And that's very impressive, where I couldn't even tell you the names of the ESPN announcers, but they're something else. Also want to bring up how the model did last week. It did poorly, Pat. It did very poorly. But so I really felt like everyone did in the sports betting world, in the fantasy world, because of course in fantasy football there's going to be half the league winning, half the league losing, but no one had a good game. It felt like.
Yeah, it was definitely the teams that we thought were going to dominate did not. And that happens. There's at least one team per week or every few weeks that happens to. But for whatever reason, this week was a weird, black hole in terms of the fact that all the teams that were like, this is going to be an easy win, didn't happen at all.
Yeah, every single one of them. It was just a massive swing and a miss. So Dallas Cowboys, they lose. The Saints lose to Atlanta. The biggest one is probably the Bills losing to Jacksonville in a touchdownless game. It was just embarrassing to watch. Cincinnati lost to Cleveland. Pat, I don't think that surprised either of us, Pat. I think both of us were kind of on Cleveland a bit more.
Yeah, I thought in terms of the game, I thought Cincinnati was going to win because I thought that they were the hotter of the two teams, but I'm not shocked that they got their butt smacked.
And then who else lost? So Green Bay loses. That team is nothing without Aaron Rodgers, which is sad to say. I think Jordan Love was, I would imagine most people agree with this, but a wasted pick. He did not look good. But on the other side of the ball, Kansas City also did not look good. I don't know if they just forgot how to play football or what happened with them. Some say they're regressing back to the mean, but man, that's a long way to fall. The other team that looked actually really good without their quarterback, and what I think is a great signal for an overall great team, Cardinals without Carolina taking it to their division rival, the 49ers. Just a really good performance without Kyler and DeAndre, Pat.
Yeah, I don't want to, again, toot my own horn. I've done this every time we brought up how the Cardinals have defied all odds, but I'm going to pretend like I said this because I'm pretty sure that I did, but I told everybody James Conner will eventually be a good fantasy football player. And lo and behold, 37 fantasy points, depending on what league you're in. So I don't necessarily think it's James Conner being good. I think the Cardinals are probably one of the best balanced teams in football right now, and it allows for anybody to do well.
Yeah, agree with that. He should be the starter this week and maybe the next. I believe it was an ankle sprain for Chase Edmonds. You'll go through that on the injury report, but something to keep an eye on, because we all know, and as Steelers fans, we know probably more so than others, James Conner doesn't stay healthy very long when he's the starter. So keep an eye on that. Benjamin might be able to get some more work out of that, especially if Conner ends up going down. But another just kind of a shocking loss, I thought. I kind of thought it'd be a close game, but I did not expect Tennessee to end up beating the Rams.
Yeah, I didn't either. I thought that it would be competitive, but I felt that with the loss of Derrick Henry. Not that the Titans were going to get smacked, but I just felt that was their competitive edge. And for some reason they pulled away. And I think what it's showing is I think a lot of people love the Rams defense, and I don't know why. They're good, but we always talk about how Aaron Donald has to be Defensive Player of the Year and how, oh gosh, they traded for Von Miller, who, when was the last time that Von Miller led the league in any statistical category?
Yeah.
So to me, the Rams are high profile, and I think it's partially because the NFL wants people in Los Angeles to care about football, which they don't, because they're just trying to get high and go to the beach. But in reality, I think the Rams are good, but I think they're a little overrated.
Yeah, no, I completely hear that. So why did I think Von Miller actually won Defensive Player of the Year? He never has.
Because that's what ESPN wants you to think, because he wears cool glasses.
That's true. That's why they put him in a bunch of commercials.
They told him not to wear his glasses when he went to Los Angeles because he can't be bigger than the team.
Oh boy. Yeah, that's an interesting one. Their defense, again, very, very hyped up. And we talked about it last week, but the Green Bay defense has been very good. Just very under the radar. So I think it's kind of like built into our minds. When you hear the Rams, you're like, oh, fantastic defense. Or if you hear Baltimore, oh, fantastic defense. Steelers,
Are you
fantastic
saying that
defense.
We're socially engineered by ESPN?
Mickey Mouse has his way with anyone he wants. Yes, take that out of context. But yeah, no, I think that's 100% true. So Cardinals only need one more win, Pat, and we hit that over on their win total that we bet on in our very first episode.
That makes me nervous. Now I feel like they're not going to do it. I feel like Sam Darnold's going to not be hurt this week. He's going to come back and throw for 500 yards, and the Cardinals are never going to win a football game again.
Extremely, extremely possible, because Kyler might also not be back.
Unbelievable.
All right, next matchup here, Tampa Bay coming back off the bye. Should be fresh to play Washington, who is also coming off of their bye. Washington, the home team here, but doesn't really matter. They are 9.5-point home underdog. So Tampa Bay expected to beat them up pretty good here. Taylor Heineke still under center. The running back game here for Washington is really what scares me, Pat, because I have a team. I have both Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissic. I have no idea who to play. Do I play both of them? Do I play just one? Technically, Gibson should be the starter, but McKissic has been doing more fantasy-wise.
I think that's the tough thing. I think at some point you have to realize that Antonio Gibson's not going to be the productive one. And that can always change because I think he has the higher potential of the two, but you got to ride the hot hand, especially if it's been this long in the season that Antonio Gibson's been a bum.
Then looking into the passing game more, Logan Thomas is, I believe they designated him to return off of IR. So when he comes back, does Ricky Seals-Jones just kind of go back into irrelevance?
I think it depends on how quickly they use him. I think we've gotten not accustomed to, but like we talk about people social engineering, what our expectations are. Logan Thomas for maybe 2 or 3 games is a really good tight end, but outside of that, he was always hurt. And I mean, what are we going to do in terms of assuming that he's going to come back and just take over the starter job? Like if you have a hot tight end and Ricky Seals-Jones, and hot to his standards, not hot to like the grand scheme of football, I mean, they're going to do double sets because think about it this way. Like, remember when the Steelers had Vance McDonald and Eric Ebron, and it was like, oh, Vance is back. But like, Vance fell off the face of the earth. Like, to me, it could be either one. It's going to depend on who Taylor Heineke wants to throw to and who's going to be the hot guy. I don't think Logan Thomas has any type of security in maintaining the number one spot.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And I don't even know. Have we seen him with Taylor Heineke? It's been a while. I'm pretty sure they played a game or two together. I just don't.
So he went out week 3. He didn't get over 50 yards.
Okay. Yeah, this team as a whole, I think, is in trouble. Their defense, I want to say, is the root cause. Yeah, we can blame it on Fitzpatrick going down early, but their defense, who was hyped up again, oh, Chase Young, going to be the best defense ever. They drafted another linebacker, again, supposed to be a very, very good defense. They are bad. They are not a good defense whatsoever. If we're looking at fantasy points allowed, wow. They give up the most. Number one, fantasy points to the quarterback position. So fire up Tom Brady. They give up the 15th most fantasy points to the running back. So, middle of them all there. The second most to the wide receiver position and the 11th most to the tight end position. So, to me, that sounds like that's going to be a fantastic game for Tampa Bay because all they do is throw the ball. So you can expect me to target them for my DFS lineups pretty easily here. Talking about their passing game, likely no AB here again, Pat. He is out of the walking boot again and was at practice, but I think it's trending towards him not playing yet again. So flip a coin. Would you rather play Mike Evans or Chris Godwin this week?
Chris Godwin. We are Penn State.
Yeah, there we go. Fair enough. So there we go. And then somehow Leonard Fournette being the stud he was supposed to be when he was drafted. Very, very well-rounded of a running back now somehow. He can catch passes. He can run it. Also, Bruce Arians just despises Ronald Jones for some reason. I don't know why, but he really hates him, but refuses to trade him. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. However, the model is going to be taking Tampa Bay to win and Tampa Bay to cover. Pat, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm also going to be taking Tampa to win and cover.
I agree. And just to go back to prove my point, because I feel like everyone should stop listening to ESPN and their social engineering agenda. How many 100-yard games did Logan Thomas have last season?
Last season?
Yes.
Who the hell was the quarterback there? I don't even remember. It doesn't matter.
I'm gonna. Magic, wasn't it?
No, he came here this year.
Would it have been? Oh, geez, Alex Smith.
Yes, that's who it was. I'm gonna say 2.
He had one game where he was 101 yards, so that counts, and one game where it was 98. Every other game, he was under 70 yards.
Wow.
And under 10 receptions.
Yikes.
So, Logan Thomas is the best tight end in football. Prove me wrong.
I guess we'll find out this week or the next. Speaking of the best tight ends in the league, Pat Freiermuth. We nailed that one, Pat. Episode 1, we called him out.
Yeah, somebody drafted them in their Dynasty League team, and I'm not going to say who it was, but someone's very happy about it. And I tried to trade him away for nothing at the beginning of the year because I thought the Yinzer mob would take him, but nobody wanted it. And now it's too late. My tight ends in that team are Zach Ertz, Pat Freiermuth, Kyle Pitts, Dalton Schultz, and Mark Andrews. I don't know who to start.
You have so many.
I don't know.
There was a limit. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And you probably drafted him pretty late too, so he might be a solid pick.
It might have been like 18th or 19th.
Exactly. So, yeah, good work. And speaking of Steelers, the Steelers are going to Detroit. Or I'm sorry, no, they're not. Detroit's coming to Pittsburgh to play the Steelers at Heinz Field. Pittsburgh coming off a horrible, horrible win that was given to us by the refs there. Well, what's your take on that, Pat? Referee, that was bad. Usually the calls never go our way, but every single call it did, and I didn't like it.
I always thought Cassius Marsh kind of looked like that douchebag who was on the team and nobody understood why. And this is probably the most famous he'll ever be. So good for him to mess it up. I don't know. It's a dumb call, but in reality, the Steelers still would have won, in my opinion. So, yeah. I think it would have made it a lot more difficult for the Steelers to win had that penalty not happened. But I think what I saw is yet another example of the Steelers defense crumbling in the end of the game. That's happened every single win we've had.
It's Mike Tomlin football. And I don't know what the issue is, but we play one half of football every single game. I don't understand why we want to make these games so close. I don't know if someone's at Buffalo Wild Wings hitting that button to make it closer, but it is just I don't know. It's embarrassing because Chicago is not a good team. Justin Fields isn't a good quarterback. It's embarrassing. Also, Ben looked absolutely terrible. It looked like he was hurt on every single play.
Well, that's because he is hurt. If you'd listen to the injury report, you'd know this.
I'm sorry. Is the whole injury report just 10 minutes talking about Ben?
No, it's usually 1 minute talking about Ben and then 9 minutes talking about Alex trying to figure out how to use the podcast thing. But
that's all right. That works. So Steelers. Oh, I'm curious. Okay, we are favored. Well, I'd imagine we'd be favored. I didn't think it'd be by this much. So Steelers are 8.5-point home favorites. Pretty low over under of 42.5 points. That gives an implied total of 25.5 to the Steelers and 17 to Detroit. And that might be the most Detroit scored all year if they hit that. Yikes. It's a tough one to talk about. Detroit has been giving up the second most points to the running back, so not like you were ever going to sit Najee, but he should be a fantastic play here. Wide receivers, Deontay looked okay. It sounds like Chase Claypool's not playing this week, so I don't know what that means. More work for James Washington, or does it just not matter?
I don't think it matters. I think the Steelers' pass offense sucks, and I think Najee's probably going to have a heck of a game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was the only money I made on Monday Night Football was doing some prop bets. I did Najee for over half of rush touchdown. He got that like first half of the first quarter, so that was good. And then I had Ben over 1.5 passing touchdowns. That worked. I also bet on Ben throwing at least one interception. Somehow he didn't do that, but usually he's good for an interception. And he tried his hardest. It just didn't happen. So the model is going to be taking the Steelers to win and cover. Oof. Okay. I am going to take the Steelers to win. I don't think will be the first win for Detroit, but I'll take Lions points, I think.
Yeah, I'll take the Steelers to win, and I think I agree with you because the Steelers spreads are always traps.
Yeah. Anytime. What were we against Chicago? I think it was also like 8.5 or 7.5. Let me confirm. Looking at the game, we were 7-point home favorites. So, yeah. I'm honestly surprised it is that close in terms of the spread. But, Steelers football, we'll see what happens. Buffalo Bills get another easy matchup, but who knows if it matters? They just lost to Urban Meyer and Trevor Lawrence. But Bills are taking on the Jets. Jets are going to be the home team, and they are 13-point home underdogs, a 47-point over-under. I think it sounds like Mike White is going to be starting again. Maybe he can bust out another win there. But it's hard to say that Josh Allen and the Bills don't just bounce back and stomp on the Jets' throat.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I felt like this game, and I didn't watch the game because I thought to myself, this is going to be a blowout. Why would this matter? Think about it from this perspective. So, like, the Bills lost to Pittsburgh. kind of embarrassing in the grand scheme of things. They come back and go 35-0 on Miami. They have a close game with Washington, close as in 22 points, then 40-0. Every time they've had a loss, they've came back and slaughtered the bad team. So the Jets will lose by 30 points. So I'm going to take the Bills to win, the Bills to cover the spread. And I think Josh Allen's not been the best fantasy quarterback this year in terms of passing, but fortunately his rush yards have fixed it. But I'm very confident that that was a one-time fluke for whatever reason, because we've seen the Jaguars and we saw that they were competitive, but not like that. I think the Bills just have a tendency when they can't run the ball and balance out their offense, they panic.
Yeah, and I think that's what separates the bad teams from the good. If they're able to make those adjustments and come back the next week stronger, that's what separates them from the rest. But so the Bills getting that loss, Bills getting some weird losses here. Somehow the Titans have the most wins in the league right now, but I don't think we talk about them as a Super Bowl contender at all, even though they have the most wins. I don't think they're a contender. So to me, the two best teams in the NFL right now, I think it's still Buffalo and Arizona. I think Tampa Bay has a say as well, but the loss against the Saints was very weird. But Buffalo also had a bad loss. So are the Cardinals the best team in the NFL at the moment?
I think when they're healthy, they are. I think if it was Cardinals Bills, I think it would not be the game we think it's going to be. I think we would assume Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, it's going to be a high scoring game. It's going to be crazy. I think it would be much closer than what people would think. And I think the edge that the Cardinals have is that their rush game is better than Buffalo's. And I think that's the only deciding factor.
Yeah, because, I mean, if we compare position by position, who would you rather have, Kyler or Josh Allen?
Josh Allen. Sorry.
I was going to say, let's not even say fantasy, just real-life quarterback.
Josh Allen.
Yeah, I think I agree. I love Kyler, but I think I agree there. And then wide receivers, Hopkins or Diggs?
I think Hopkins is the more athletic, better receiver when he's healthy.
Yeah, Hopkins is just so clutch. I think Diggs is consistent, but Hopkins makes some ridiculous plays that makes or breaks a game. So I think Arizona wins there on the wide receiver side. And then, like you just said, running back side, again, Edmonds and Connor and Eno aren't the best running backs, but as a core, I think greater sign Zach Moss and Singletary.
For sure.
The model is going to be taking the Bills to win and Bills to cover. Pat, I'm going to be with you in the model here as well. Put it all on Buffalo. All right, our next matchup, we have the New Orleans Saints going on to take on the the highest win total, Tennessee Titans. Titans are, I'm curious, Titans are 3-point home favorites. Yeah, I think that is okay. The Saints are just such a confusing team, which makes me not want to bet on this game whatsoever, because they can either put up 35 points or they can put up 5. They're that weird of a team. But Tennessee, Tannehill's looking okay. A.J. Brown, I think, is back in full force. He got 42% of the target share last week, 11 targets, 79% of the air yards. He's very talented, and I think Julio Jones only makes him better because he allows some of the defense to move away from him. But quarterback, given they're both healthy, Pat, you're Sean Payton. Do you want to start Simeon or Taysom?
I think it doesn't matter. I mean, to me, I'm going to start Trevor Siemian because of the two. He's the more traditional quarterback, and then you just bring Taysom in when you need him. There doesn't have to be a guaranteed starter. This is like the plan that's going to happen now is what we thought would happen at the beginning of the year. That Jameis Winston would be the guy who's in there most of the time, and then Taysom would come in whenever he's ready. So I think that's the strategy moving forward.
Yeah, looking at, Taysom's kind of known as the runner of the quarterback position. He only rushed once last week. 2 pass attempts, 1 rush, where Simeon never ran at all, but he passed the ball 41 times. So it's just so weird. I bring this up quite a bit anytime Taysom Hill is talked about. I have no idea why they paid him as much money as they did. It's the most absurd deal I've ever heard about. He's not worth it. He's a gadget type player. He's not a startable NFL quarterback, and they're realizing that. So I really don't get it. Yeah, they have a ton of room in cap space, but I wouldn't be paying that to Taysom Hill. Model is going to be taking Tennessee to win, but New Orleans to cover. You can go first on this one.
I mean, I don't like whenever teams are supposed to cover a 3-point spread because that's so hard to do. I really think it's going to be Tennessee to win and to cover. I don't see the Saints coming in, especially since Alvin Kamara sat out of practice today with an injury, or so they say.
Yeah, and they actually worked out a few different free agent running backs, so maybe there is some worry there. I'm going to agree with you. I'll take Tennessee to win and cover. Next matchup, we have Atlanta coming off of a win and Dallas coming off of a terrible loss. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I haven't looked at the over-under yet, but Dallas is an 8.5-point home favorite at AT&T Stadium. Very high over-under of 55 points, giving an implied score of 31 3/4 to Dallas, 23 1/4 to Atlanta. Again, this is another game I will gladly target for DFS. Should be a lot of points scored on both sides of the ball, most of them probably by Cordero Patterson.
Yeah, thank God. People are starting to finally give him the credit he deserves. He's the greatest wide receiver, running back, utility player of all time. And I don't know if I agree with you about the high scoring thing. I think what I'm concerned about is Dak fully healthy? Because what we saw last week did not show fully healthy Dak.
Would they have been better starting Cooper Rush?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe. I personally think Dallas's division's so crappy. You could have gave Dak an extra week and it wouldn't have mattered in the grand scheme of things. Right. They may not have won the game, which they didn't. But I probably would have sat him until you're good to go because Dallas has a legitimate opportunity to make the playoffs this year. And you don't want to ruin that.
Yeah, I think they're basically locked in at the moment. Basically locked in at the moment as the division winner. That division is just awful. They're the only, competent team, I think, in that whole division. And looking at the probability at the moment, 95% chance the Cowboys make playoffs. Falcons also currently trending to make the playoffs as the final wild card. They're 4-4. So let me read the teams that are just outside of the playoff picture right now for the NFC, and you tell me if you think they would make it in over the Falcons for the final wild card. All right, so Falcons or Carolina Panthers?
Falcons.
Okay. Falcons or Vikings?
I think the Vikings are actually better.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
I actually saw some graphic on Instagram. The Vikings have not lost a game by more than 7 points. Isn't that wild?
They've been super competitive. They almost beat what was it? Baltimore. Yeah, last week. If they could keep pace with Baltimore, I think it's just their defense yet again that needs to be able to keep them in these games because their offense can definitely keep pace. Seattle. Russ is possibly coming back this week or next, but Seattle or the Falcons for that last spot. They're 3-5.
I think the Falcons, until we see Russ come back and be a better, not better fit, but until he's healthy, I'm going to take Atlanta.
Okay, and then I'm going to read two more teams here because the rest don't matter. San Francisco 49ers.
No.
Also 3-5. And then
they don't have a running back.
They have many running backs. They're just all injured. And then the last one here, Philadelphia.
No. They actually don't have a running back.
Yeah. Yep, they actually do not. Yep. That's very interesting. That last wild card position in the NFC is going to be a battle. And whoever plays them. Wait a minute. Who would play them? Currently, the Buccaneers would play the Falcons if the season ended today. And that is just a whooping. You're going to let Tom Brady give Matty Ice some Super Bowl flashbacks. Looking at the model is going to take Dallas to win, Dallas to cover. 8.5. I'll say Dallas wins, but I will take Atlanta to cover. I think 8.5 is a lot of points.
Yeah, I could see that as well. I think I'm going to go with you. Dallas to win, Atlanta to cover.
Next matchup here, Cleveland is coming off hot off a big win. They scored like 41 points against Cincinnati. They're going to Gillette Stadium to take on the Patriots. Wow. Okay. Pat, have you looked at the line?
I have not.
Who do you think's favored?
I would say Cleveland.
They're not. The Patriots are 1.5 home favorite. So that should tell you right away. I think both you and I would take that at least Cleveland spread.
I think it depends if Nick Chubb plays.
Yeah, that is a good point. So he is vaccinated, just needs 2 negative tests in a row by Sunday, and he can play. If not, I am starting D'Ernest Johnson. I know that New England has a pretty good defense, but the one weak spot that they have is at the running back position. They're allowing the 12th most points, whereas Cleveland is earning the most points at the running back position. Their offensive line is just good enough to keep that going. I'm not saying D'Ernest Johnson is any special type of running back, but I think their scheme, along with their offensive line, he's going to get some points. That might be a prop bet I'd be willing to take, is D'Ernest to get a touchdown. So going to the model will be taking. Wow. Okay. So New England to win and cover. So that's an interesting one. So again, it sounds like you and I are going to take the exact opposite.
Yeah, I think if Nick Chubb plays, I'm going to take the opposite. If Nick Chubb doesn't play, I think it's going to be still Cleveland to win, but I think New England's going to make it really close.
So Cleveland would cover as well since they're the underdog?
It's true.
Okay. So we're on the same page there. Model is not. So we're fighting. We're fighting the robots. It's like Terminator. That's what this is. Did we talk Buffalo? We talked Buffalo Jets already. Oh, yay. An AFC, what are they? South matchup, Jacksonville versus the Colts. Colts look good. I don't like saying it, but they look good. If you just pay attention to the box score and not actually watch Carson Wentz try to get out of the pocket, they're a very good team. Jonathan Taylor is incredible. Best healthy running back at the moment with Derrick Henry down. Pittman looks like a wide receiver 1. It's only his second year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of room to grow for him, and I think he's in a system that will allow him to flourish. So yeah, I'm excited about that. So Jacksonville beat Buffalo. Can they beat the Colts? I'm just gonna say no.
I have no idea.
So, massive.
This is the game that I would never bet because my gut instinct would be like, oh, the Colts, 100%. There's no way Jacksonville does it twice in a row. But you know what's going to happen? Nobody knows because this is a BS game.
I'll tell you right now, I'm going to take Jacksonville to cover at this spread. How big do you think it is?
I already looked at it, but
oh, okay, sorry.
For the sake of conversation, is it in double digits?
It is. It is 10.5.
Oh man, that's astonishing.
That's a crazy spread that no one would ever think of. I'll just say now, I'll take Colts to win, but Jacksonville to cover here.
Sorry. Yeah, and I think I'm going to take the Colts to win, but I'll take Jacksonville to cover as well. I don't trust it.
Fair enough. The model will also be taking the Colts to win, but it's also going to be it's going to take Colts to win, but Colts to cover. So they think they can beat them by that 10.5. That is to be seen. Jacksonville, hopefully James Robinson is back because their run game looked awful.
Mm-hmm.
Dan Arnold is their wide receiver 1. So yeah.
So it was a great trade.
Yeah, that trade worked out very well for him. They wanted him, they got him, they're using him. I think it's just a nice release outlet for Trevor, and that's kind of seems to be the case with a lot of rookie quarterbacks. They always seem to find the tight end because it's usually like a short to mid length pass, and they're big dudes, so that makes it a little easier for Trevor because he has it so hard. Quarterback that's definitely better than Trevor Lawrence is Justin Herbert, and Justin Herbert's going to be playing the Minnesota Vikings at home. Chargers are 3-point home favorites. We just talked about Minnesota, Pat, where they've been able to keep pace all season. Chargers, who I think we would both agree are the better team, but they've dropped the ball a bit at times. So I'm curious what your thoughts are here.
Yeah, I think the Chargers have kind of dropped the ball recently, but I think this is going to be another game that Minnesota is going to be close, but they're not going to pull it off. And the reason that I say that is I haven't seen enough from Dalvin Cook yet to make me think that he's the game changer that he was last year. He's still recovering or something. Something's still off, or he's still good, but he's not that dynamic running back we're used to seeing. And in terms of the Chargers, Austin Eckler should be good to go. Keenan Allen's starting to show back up. I mean, Mike Williams has kind of fallen off the face of the earth a little bit, but I think that the Chargers are the more balanced team. I think Justin Herbert's a little bit better of a quarterback. Eckler isn't as good as Dalvin Cook in terms of being a runner, but in terms of the grand scheme of fantasy football, he's just as comparable because he can catch the ball out of the backfield.
Yeah.
And their receiving core is just as good. So to me, I'm going to go with the team that has better defense. Oh, man. Both of them have horrible rush defenses. That's not good. That's something to think about. If you have Dalvin Cook, maybe start. I didn't realize the Chargers were 32nd rush yards against. That's kind of wild. Yeah, they're very comparable. What is highly concerning is the sacks category. So the Vikings are number 2 with 27, and the Chargers only have 15. So it may not sound like it matters, but if you're in a team, or if you're in a game where you're playing a team like the Vikings who can stay in the game, if you're not roughing up the quarterback, that makes it a lot harder for you to gain momentum on defense. So I think this game might be closer to what we think, but I'm going to take the Chargers because I think overall they have the better talent on their roster.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. Man, that 3-point line is just weird. Like you talked about. Yeah, I'll take Chargers to win and cover as well. I think they're definitely the better passing team. The running back position, as in terms of pure running, Cook obviously takes the cake there. And sadly, we do have to talk about him just because he's a football player. This is a football show. We got to bring it up. So last year, something definitely happened. We don't exactly know what, but some sort of domestic abuse. Whether Cook was the victim or the one abusing is kind of yet to be determined. It's he said, she said at the moment, but the first report that came out was that Dalvin Cook was a victim of domestic violence. The report was that a woman broke into his home because she had his garage door opener. It sounds like he dated this woman, but she broke into his home, attacked Cook by macing him in the face, and I believe there were other house guests there as well that she also attacked. Not even a day later, another report comes out that Cook was actually the one doing the abusing to the same woman who was said to break into his house. And lawsuits are being filed at the moment. This is kind of just expected. I'm not saying it's expected for Cook. I'm saying it's expected for high-profile football players. It just happens. It doesn't stop. But this was last year, so it took this long for it to quote-unquote surface. I guarantee that the league knew about it forever. No police reports were filed back then. Things are just kind of getting ugly now. It's not going to impact Cook this year. I believe he will continue to play unless something really bad comes out about him. But this seems like he'll play through the season, and this will be handled, in the off season with likely some court cases to follow. Anyways, back to nicer things. At the moment, the model has the Chargers to win, but Minnesota to cover. Next matchup here, the best team in the league, the Arizona Cardinals, are going to be taking on the Carolina Panthers. Cardinals are 10.5 point home favorites. That it's a big spread, but I think I like that here, especially if Kyler's back, especially if Hopkins is back. That's going to be great. And then, not to mention, on the other side of the ball, it looks like PJ Walker is going to get a start here over Sam Darnold. Darnold has a fractured scapula, which took them a while to find. He played last week, and it sounds like he really shouldn't have. But PJ Walker is going to be starting. Seems like Christian McCaffrey's back. He got a decent amount of work. 14 rush attempts, but the bigger story, as always, with Christian McCaffrey is he got 17% of the targets, 5 targets. It's a tough one. Even with Christian McCaffrey back, even with DJ Moore healthy, is PJ Walker really that big of a downgrade from Sam Darnold?
In terms of potential, yes. In terms of this season right now, which is really bad for Sam Darnold, I'm going to say no.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't think there's a chance they win this game. Their defense is somehow pretty good. If we're looking here, they're in like the lower third in terms of points allowed to every position: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. So pretty good on the defensive side. I just don't know how you stop the Arizona Cardinals because they can beat you everywhere. Throwing the ball, running the ball. Their defense can take away the ball and score. They are just a very dynamic team. I'm taking the Cardinals to win and cover.
I agree with you 100%.
The model also agrees. Another matchup here. This is a gross matchup. I'm not interested in this one at all, but Philadelphia is going to Mile High, take on the Denver Broncos. The Broncos are 3-point home favorites. Sure. Noah Fant seems to be coming back this week. No more Albert Owuka Bonham, whatever the hell his name is. He didn't do anything last week. But that's really kind of the only guy I want to talk about. Noah Fant's coming back, and Philadelphia allows the most points to the tight end position. Pat, I know you have experience with Noah Fant. What's your take?
I think Noah Fant is a glass house, and I think that he's good, but we've seen right now that Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick get most of the passing work, and Teddy's good, but in terms of fantasy, anybody receiving the ball in Denver is not going to explode. So until Denver gets a new quarterback, I wouldn't touch Noah.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And then for the running back, Melvin Gordon had a pretty good game last week. Javonte Williams also. They're splitting snaps and rush attempts pretty evenly. So last week, Melvin Gordon rushed 21 times, Javonte 17 times. In the passing game, however, it is all Melvin Gordon. Melvin got 3 targets, Javonte got none. So, I think their run game is also very good, and Philadelphia has given up the 4th most points to the running back position. But it's tough here, right? Because they're going to be splitting the carry so much. I don't know how you can comfortably start either one of them unless, you kind of have to as like I don't know, maybe a running back 2 or a flex position. Other side of the ball, they have no running backs worth noting. Someone's going to get a touchdown. Don't play the game of trying to figure out who it is unless it's DFS. Jalen Hurts likes to throw the ball to Dallas Goedert and Devonta Smith. That's really all you need to know. He also runs the ball quite a bit. 10 rush attempts last week, 7 the week before, 13 the week before that. Denver is a tougher defense, but I think he does well here. With that said, I'm going to be different, Pat. I'm going to take Philadelphia to win and cover.
I think that's fair, but I think in reality, well, now that I'm looking, 80% of the money for the money lines on the Broncos. So I'm going to fade the public, and I guess I'll join you. I was going to talk myself out of it, but now that I look at that, I agree with what you say.
I think there's just too much confidence in the Broncos at the moment. Coming off a good win last week against who'd they play? They played
Dallas.
Yeah, exactly. So big win last week. Too much hype there. I think it's a closer matchup than what it's saying here. And the model is going to be taking the Broncos to win and cover, just barely. It only has the Broncos winning by 4 points. Another matchup here. So the big question, this is a difficult one because both sides, we don't know who the quarterback is going to be. So Seattle's taking on Green Bay. At the moment, Green Bay is 3.5 point home favorites, over under 49.5 points. That's a very tough one. If Jordan Love plays, I think I take Seattle here. But at the same time, Russell Wilson might not play, and it could be Geno. So this could just get ugly. And at that point, it's like, okay, well, the auxiliary players, who do you have more confidence in? Aaron Jones and Devontae Adams, or Alex Collins, DK Metcalf, and Tyler Lockett? And I don't know what side of the fence I fall on there, Pat.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, this is a coin toss decision. I think for me, if I'm going to pick one, I'm just going to go with Jordan Love because I hope to God that he proves to himself that he was worth a draft pick. We kind of know who Geno Smith is. We don't really know who Jordan Love is. He had one bad game. So I think I'm just going to pick the Packers just so that way if he does well, I can say that I called it.
I think the way I'm going to play it here, so I can get on both sides of the ball, is I'm going to take Green Bay to win, but Seattle to cover. I think that's how I'll play it.
That sounds great. Let's do it too. I'll go with that.
Join me. Sweet. Why is this all jacked up? Who are they playing? Seattle. There we go. Green Bay, Seattle. All right. Only games left are the primetime games. I would hardly consider this a primetime game, but Kansas City taking on the Las Vegas Raiders in Las Vegas. the Raiders are 2.5-point home underdogs. That's so crazy to say. But with the way Kansas City has been playing, it's been not good. But at that line pad, I think I hate to say it, but easily taking Kansas City to win and cover.
And that's where I disagree with you, because what I don't trust is Patrick Mahomes. And I think that the Raiders have shown that they're very hit or miss. Fortunately, although their past, I don't know. Because let's talk about the past few games, right? So the Chiefs beat Aaron Rodgers' less Green Bay Packers. The Giants, smoked by the Titans, beat Washington. Raiders lost to the Giants, beat the Eagles, beat the Broncos, lost to the Bears. They really haven't played in competition. The last time they both played a competitive team, they both got smacked. I'm going to take the Raiders because I think they're going to rally around the fact that everybody on their team is either getting arrested or dying or something, and it's time. It's time for Derek Carr to get a Super Bowl. So I think Patrick Mahomes, I think he's going to continue the slide. They're barely going to make the playoffs, and then it's going to be this redemption story where Patrick Mahomes comes back and throws for 500 yards. It's going to be like when the Steelers won Super Bowl XL as the wild card, right? So
yeah, we've won most of our Super Bowls as the wild card.
That is wild. Okay, so the one Super Bowl XL when everyone's like they're trash, and then they won white jerseys, so then everyone bought a white jersey after that.
Exactly. Yes.
I don't know. Yeah. I think the Raiders defense might mess with Mahomes a little bit. Kansas City could win, but I'm just going to take the Raiders just for fun.
Okay. I like it. I do like the Raiders defense. I think they're very talented, but I threw up in my mouth a little bit when you said it's time for Derek Carr to get a Super Bowl.
Yes, it's time. I never said it was going to happen. I said it's time.
Okay. I don't know what's worse. The Raiders they're likely to make playoffs here, and I think that'll be interesting. So the Raiders, currently there's 2 AFC West teams in the playoffs if the season ended today. Chargers and the Raiders. The Raiders, they both have the same exact record, 5-3. Chargers currently at 72% chance of playoffs, and the Raiders are at 62%. Both of them better than the Chiefs, which is so wild because, if we're talking about it, I think we still think the Chiefs make playoffs, and they could still win the division, which is gross with the way they've been playing. So, Pat, the model is going to agree with you. It is going to take the Raiders to win and cover.
Fantastic.
That's absurd. But I guess we'll find out. Kansas City has not been playing very well. Random thing. I was looking at just some random NFL special bets on Bovada just because it's fun. So I was looking at the odds for the next coach to get fired or just leave. Mm-hmm. I was really surprised to see Andy Reid here at plus 1,600, which is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9th best odds to leave. There's not anything. It's not anything crazy, but I don't know why he would leave at the moment.
I don't think he would leave. I think he'd get fired if the Chiefs continue to lose.
One season after going to the Super Bowl back-to-back?
Yeah.
All right.
I think it's possible. I think people are savages. And I think that's when you have Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback, that's what the problem with, identifying the next prophet in the NFL, right? Mm. If he's the quarterback and things don't go well, it's the coach, regardless if it's 10 years down the road or 1 year down the road. So not shocked that he's up there. If I had to pick, though, I don't know. When are people going to stop giving Matt Rule the benefit of the doubt?
Ooh. Yeah. It's his second year?
Yeah, but I mean, you went and spent all this money on Sam Darnold. He looks pretty stupid right now. And to me, I don't know. I'm not saying he's going to be the next one to go, but that's just a name that I'm thinking of. Everyone wants Matt Nagy to get fired, so I'm not talking about him.
Mm-hmm.
Dan Campbell is going to be the coach in Detroit for at least 3 years, and then he'll get one win, and then he'll get fired. Yeah, I don't know. Bill O'Brien's still somehow in Houston?
No,
he's not.
Mm-mm.
Either way, whoever the coach for Houston is, he deserves to be fired.
Mike Tomlin plus 5,000.
Yeah, it's not horrible. Maybe he'll quit when Ben quits.
It's weird. We talk about Mike Tomlin every year. You talk to anyone in Pittsburgh, like, oh fuck Mike Tomlin. He's terrible. He's never had a losing season, but the way it's conflicting. The way that people from Pittsburgh think is very different from how Mike Tomlin thinks. We're very upset that he's a player's coach. He let Bell and Brown do whatever they want, and it's not the Steeler way and all that. But the Steelers way is the Mike Tomlin way. That's weird to say for some people that are, in the older generations, but that's a fact. Mike Coach has been our coach, Pat, our generation's coach for most of our lives. We had Bill Cowher for a little bit, but really what we've known is Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, I think Steelers fans will always be, in terms of like being a fan base, they're always going to want to fire the coach just because we expect the best. So
Exactly.
I think he's fine. I don't think he's going to leave anytime soon. I think the only way he'll leave is if he has multiple losing seasons and he tells one of the Rooneys to F off. That's the only way he's going to get kicked out.
Rooneys might like that. They seem to really like him. One final matchup here, Pat. Monday Night Football. Los Angeles Rams going to take on San Francisco 49ers. This is another line I am just shocked at. The Rams are only 4-point away favorites. And again, I'll say it right now, Rams to win and cover. San Francisco looked terrible. They lost to Arizona, who again, I think is the best team in football at the moment. But they just put up absolutely zero of a fight. They're always banged up. Kittle came back in, let's see how Kittle did. Kittle got 22% of the targets. It didn't matter. They just did not look like the football team everyone expects them to be. And that's another thing. Maybe ESPN put this in our minds, but after San Francisco lost that Super Bowl, it was implanted in all of our minds that, oh, they're such a good team. Kyle Shanahan's really good. He's one of the best coaches ever. They haven't done anything. And it's too easy to blame it on the injuries, which always seem to happen there. But I just do not think they're a good team.
Yeah, I think they lack the running back depth. And now that we've seen it with Brandon Ayuk not really being productive, they lack receiver depth as well. George Kittle is coming back, so maybe it'll be a little bit better. But I think compared to the rest of that division, they're the worst team.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I'd have to go back and look at our first episode, but I think they were like number 1 or number 2 in terms of winning the division in odds. And I don't think either one of us bought it. We were about the Cardinals. We really like the Cardinals, and we were down on Seattle and San Francisco. And I don't understand the hype around San Francisco, and it's been there for years now, and they've done nothing. So the model is going to take the Rams to win, Rams to cover. And then Pat, what are your thoughts? You with us?
Yeah, I'll ride the model train. Why not?
All right. That's going to do it for this episode. Check out the models picks, our picks on our Action Networks. You can tail us there, and if anything changes with our bets or the models, you'll know immediately because you'll be able to follow that on Action Network. You can also check out the website. That's another place we track our bets, sleepingwiththenumbers.com. Follow us on Twitter at SWTN_podcast. You can also check us out Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, all at Sleeping with the Numbers. Again, as always, we got to remind you, get into some prop betting. It's fun. It's easy. it makes the games worth watching. If you don't have fantasy players in the game, or you're looking at a game and you're like, man, this is the only game on, but I don't really care. Do some prop bets. It's super easy on Monkey Knife Fight. Sign up with our link and you get your initial deposit matched instantly, 100% up to $100, so you can get prop betting quickly.
Yeah, and the other company we want to talk about is BarkBox. BarkBox is a theme subscription box that you can order for your dog. You'll get treats and toys shipped to you monthly, and if you use our link, you'll get a month for free. So if you follow our Instagram, you'll see some pictures of Scout opening up one of her more recent boxes. She got a Thanksgiving one, and it's fantastic. So I highly recommend checking that out.